She fed and took care of her pet duck.
Mr. President, we've just received word the planet is under attack by aliens.
Okay.
Sir, they've already wiped out some of our cities. If nothing is done, they'll kill us all.
I see. Well, I'll handle that in a minute. But right now, I need to find out what's happening with the duck.
I've read the story before, Mr. President. The duck dies.
Hey, Ryan. Hi, this is Sarah Palin.
Ryan, Donald Trump Jr.
Hogs to win, see you. Hey, everybody, I want y'all to check out a fellow Marines podcast.
My name is Ted Nugent, and I got a call from my buddy Ryan F. Samuels, and he wants me to tell you that he's a working hard, playing all-American son of a who is celebrating God, family, country.
Welcome to the Ryan Samuels Show, one of the top political podcasts in the United States, where we have a healthy distrust for government and mainstream media. The Ryan Samuels Show is a raw, unfiltered look at American politics. Follow on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Here is your host, Ryan Samuels.
Hello, Patriots. Another day where Joe Biden is the worst president in American history. That is really hard for me to say because we've had some terrible presidents. Joe Biden is an absolute disgrace to the United States of America. Now, you may be saying why. Well, why is just basically the way that he runs the country. That's number one. It's terrible. It's just dreadful. It's disgusting. Two, in Afghanistan, he just had zero regard for our troops and their lives when he pulled out of Afghanistan. He has been completely weak with Iran, and now we have lost 3 American service members. They were killed by a drone in Jordan. And the drone was following a U.S. drone, which penetrated the defense system, and then it was a kamikaze or suicide drone, and 3 Americans were killed, along with 35 or 40 injured. So that was Sergeant Williams Rivera of Carlton, Georgia, Specialist Kennedy Sanders of Waycross, Georgia, and Specialist Brianna Moffett of Savannah, Georgia. It's a very sad thing to hear that any American service member has died, especially when you feel that it could have been prevented. Now, when you take the oath, you write a blank check for up to and including your life. That's the way that it is. You go in, you fully understand that you could die. Now, when I was in, we were in the hardcore Iraq, Afghanistan, full war mode. Now, I'm sure that these individuals joined, the ones that were killed and injured, thinking that the war is over and we're not really going to have a major war coming soon, most likely, because we just entered 2 major wars. But the way that Joe Biden has handled the military is disgraceful. And we remember this incident from when Joe Biden just pulled out of Afghanistan and 12 Marines died, or 13 Marines died, and the Afghani people were left behind on their own, right? They were left behind on their own. The Biden administration left behind informants that helped the United States military achieve its goals in Afghanistan. They left behind interpreters that helped the U.S. military achieve their goals in Afghanistan. This was a humanitarian crisis. They just left these people behind to die. Let's watch this video that shows the last plane leaving the runway at the Kabul airport and all the citizens flocking to it, hanging off of it, trying to leave with the U.S. aircraft. Afghans sprint alongside a U.S. military aircraft attempting to take off in an apparent attempt to prevent it from leaving without them. You see people jumping on, hanging on to the aircraft, which is just not going to work. Now, we're not going to watch this entire video because there is a point where the aircraft takes off and people fall off the side of it. That's how desperate they were to leave the country. And now we have this Jordan incident where Joe Biden has just been completely weak on the Iran issue and the Israel issue and Gaza, because he doesn't care about American lives. He doesn't care about the safety of America. He only cares about being re-elected. So here's Joe Biden crumbling, breaking down after the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Mr. President, there had not been a U.S. service member killed in combat in Afghanistan since February of 2020. You set a deadline, you pulled troops out, you sent troops back in, and now 12 Marines are dead. You said the buck stops with you. Do you bear any responsibility for the way that things have unfolded in the last 2 weeks?
I bear responsibility for fundamentally all that's happened of late. But here's the deal.
You always know it's a line of BS is coming when he says, but here's the deal.
You know, I wish you'd one day say these things. You know as well as I do that the former president made a deal with the Taliban. That he would get all American forces out of Afghanistan by May 1. In return, the commitment was made, and that was a year before. In return, he was given a commitment that the Taliban would continue to attack others, but would not attack any American forces. Remember that?
That sounds like a pretty good deal. That sounds like a great deal. Unfortunately, when you took office, that changed, and U.S. troops were attacked, and they were killed when they were leaving.
I'm being serious. No, I'm asking you a question. Because before... No, wait a minute. I'm asking you a question. Is that accurate, the best?
About, but Mr. President, respectfully, since I don't think that the issue that, do you think that people have an issue
Look at him. He just head in his hands.
With pulling out of Afghanistan or just the way that things have happened?
I think they have an issue that people are likely to get hurt. Some, as we've seen, have gotten killed, and that it is messy. Imagine where we'd be if I had indicated on May the 1st I was not going to renegotiate an evacuation date. We were going to stay there. I'd have only one alternative: pour thousands of more troops back into Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, it was time to end a 20-year war. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to address what he's saying first. He comes out and says that this is, a while ago, that it was 2 years, I think 2022, 2 years ago, and he comes out and says that, well, Trump negotiated that they wouldn't kill any Americans, but yet Americans died under your watch. So, I mean, obviously you didn't do that freaking good of a job, Joe. If the negotiation was they weren't going to kill any Americans, and then all of a sudden you come out and you withdraw just in a terrible fashion, and all of our military equipment is left behind for terrorists to use in future attacks, presumably the one that led in Israel. Now, this is terrible that we lost these troops, right? This was done by proxies from Iran. Everything, all the doors, all the roads lead back to Iran. Now, there are a lot of conservatives or libertarians who say they don't want war with Iran. I don't think anybody wants war. But I do think that a message needs to be sent that you do not fuck with the United States of America. And you do not kill our troops. And if you do, we are going to annihilate your soul. That needs to be understood. The United States military presence in the region is to stop a regional war, to stop it from breaking out, because all of these groups, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthi rebels, they're all funded by Iran. And Iran's just got $6 billion from the Biden administration. Now, let's see what Joe Biden had to say on this situation.
President Biden is under increasing pressure to respond in a way that stops these attacks for good. Iran-backed militants have targeted U.S. military facilities in Iraq and Syria over 160 times since October. The U.S. has in recent months carried out several strikes, targeting Iranian proxies' weapons depots in Iraq and Syria. To date, none of those strikes have deterred the militants. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says tensions in the Middle East are the highest they've been in over 50 years.
We will respond decisively.
Blinken's an idiot.
To any aggression. And we will hold responsible the people who attacked our troops. We'll do so at a time and a place of our choosing.
NATO Secretary General
at a time and place of our choosing. I'm interested to see what they're going to do.
And Stoltenberg says Iran is repressive at home and aggressive abroad and is destabilizing the whole region.
Tehran's behavior reminds us of what a world without rules look like. Unpredictable and dangerous.
Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin expressed outrage and sorrow for those fallen and injured in the line of duty.
The President and I will not tolerate attack on U.S. forces, and we will take all necessary actions to defend the U.S. and our troops.
Allison McManus from the Center for American Progress says the strikes on U.S. service members represent a fundamental change in the rules of engagement.
Well, that was the wrong video, but that's okay. We'll get to that video in a minute. But Joe Biden is in a lot of trouble. He's in a lot of trouble when it comes to this election. He is failing on the economy, even though he comes out and he has all these commercials saying how great the economy's doing. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. Inflation is still through the roof. Your interest rates are the highest they've been in probably your lifetime. If you want to buy a home, you're looking at 8% interest, 7-8%. It's insanity. That's insanity. And he's pretending that everything is okay. And it's not. And it never is. I mean, we went through the same thing under Barack Obama's administration. The United States credit rating was downgraded for the first time in American history under Barack Obama. Because at a certain point, you just start running out of money. And you can't fund all of this crap that you want to fund, that Democrats want to fund.
John, do you expect the president would go to Dover for the dignified transfer when these Americans are returned to the United States?
I don't have anything on his schedule to speak to.
John, do you expect...
So they're asking if the president is going to be there when the fallen soldiers come back. And they say, well, I don't have any information on his his schedule this week. Okay. The last time he went to the Marines, to the fallen Marines after Afghanistan, and he was at the funeral, and he was just completely bored with it. He did not want to be involved, and he was caught. I'm going to pull this up here so we can see it. But he was caught checking his watch. He was just not, he didn't want to be there. He's like, I got to get out of here. What time can I get out of here? And here's the famous photo of that on Snopes.com. Look at this. Snopes. Did Biden check watch multiple times during transfer of fallen soldiers? With a photo of him checking his watch. And they rated it as true. So, if they're rating it as true, that's crazy. He's just not entertained. He doesn't care. His decision killed these people. And he doesn't care. Now there's a question of whether or not he's going to go to the bodies being transferred back. I mean, it'd be nice if he went and did not check his watch. That would be a great thing. Here is a Fox News report on all of the attacks that are coming from all of these proxies, and let's listen to this.
And now he's live at the White House. Lucas, what more can you tell us?
Well, Arthel, this is the deadliest attack on American forces in the Middle East since the October 7th Hamas massacre. As you mentioned last night, a drone strike killed 3 U.S. troops and wounded 25 at a base in northeast Jordan near the border with Syria. That's according to the White House. President Biden releasing a statement moments ago which says, quote, "While we are still gathering the facts of the attack, we know it was carried out by radical Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq. Jill and I join the families and friends of our fallen and Americans across the country in grieving the loss of these warriors in this despicable and wholly unjust attack." Now, there have been now over 159 attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria, and now Jordan over the past 3 months.
I mean, look at this. Attacks on the U.S. Embassy, the Baghdad Diplomatic Support Center, air bases, Mission Support Green Village, Gaza, Israel, Lebanon. 159 attacks on U.S. forces since October 17th. What had Joe Biden done about it besides hand them $6 billion to Iran, which was originally frozen? Then he unfroze it and gave it back. So what did he do? What are we doing about this? This is the first time anybody's been killed, but multiple people have been injured in these attacks.
The U.S. has responded with airstrikes in Iraq and Syria, but the bulk have been in Yemen since the beginning of the month. There have been increasing calls, as you mentioned, Eric, for the U.S. to strike back much harder. U.S. warships continue shooting down drones and missiles from Iran's proxy forces off the coast of Yemen. There have also been calls for the U.S. to strike the source, and that's inside Iran. The names of those fallen has not been released, that subject to next of kin notifications. Eric and Arthel.
All right, Lucas Tomlinson, thank you very much, live at the White House. And right now joining us on the phone is Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin. Jennifer, any word from the Pentagon?
Well, Arthel, we have received a notification from CENTCOM, a statement in which they confirm the deaths of those 3 U.S. troops. But I'm also hearing reports that up to 25 Americans may have been injured in that attack on the base in northern Jordan. This is a very significant escalation, as Lucas reported. This is bound to test not only the White House, but also U.S. Central Command. We know that there has been a great deal of frustration among top senior U.S. military officials, thinking that that the U.S. needed to strike back harder against Iran, that Iran was not getting the deterrent message. As Lucas mentioned, there have been 159 attacks on almost daily on.
Iran is clearly not getting the message because it's escalating, because we're not doing anything about it. We're not doing anything about it. Now, here is Tucker Carlson talking about the incident and saying that we don't need to go to war with Iran. Let's listen to this.
Here's fellow neocon Lindsey Graham just spelling it out and calling for the bombing of Iran.
So I've been on the phone all day to the Mideast, and I've told our allies and people with connections to Iran, what I would do, I would tell Iran that if Hezbollah attacks Israel, we're going to come after you, the Iranians, and have a coordinated effort between the United States and Israel to put Iran out of the oil business by destroying their refineries. There are 4 major refineries in Iran. They're fixed targets. If Hezbollah attacks Israel, I would make Iran pay a heavy price.
What exactly would happen to the United States if we declared war on Iran and started blowing up their infrastructure? Lindsey Graham has no clue what would happen. He hasn't thought it through. He's almost 70 years old and he has no children. He doesn't care. But neither, amazingly, do most of his colleagues in Washington. They're as reckless as he is. Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw took to social media to call for what he described as a war to end all wars, as if there is such a thing. But of course, there isn't such a thing. Wars beget more war. The bigger the conflict, the uglier and longer lasting the consequences. See World War I for details.
I disagree, Tucker. I disagree. I think a ton of conservatives are very concerned to back a war with Iran because of the mistake they made by backing the war in Iraq. This is totally different. Iraq was not bombing us or behind they're nowhere near what Iran was doing. Even under Bush, his advisors, the advisors were telling him, no, Iran is the problem. We need to go after Iran. Iran's the big problem. And we would have had a totally different outcome of the war. But Iran is actually funding terrorists. Iran is actually blowing up the U.S. troops and killing them through their proxies. So you're going to see a lot of calls from the left or from the right saying that we don't want war with Iran. Don't go to war with Iran. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. I don't agree with that position. I think that it would be okay to bomb Iran. That's me, though. I mean, I don't make these decisions. The American people do. But I would have no problem, no qualms with bombing and killing the people that killed these people. I would have zero issue with that. So now we're seeing a split in the Republican Party. They're the neocons versus whatever the heck they want to call them, or the Trumpers, and they're just warmongers, and we're not. And listen, they are attacking United States personnel. They are killing United States personnel. There's nothing wrong with killing the people who were killing United States personnel.
The United States has vowed to respond after Iranian-backed militias killed 3 U.S. soldiers and injured around 40 more in Jordan, which many fear could put the entire Middle East at the precipice of regional war.
This is an incredibly volatile time in the Middle East. I would argue that we've not seen a situation as dangerous as the one we're facing now across the region since at least 1973.
What? Blinken, what are you talking about? We just had 2 major wars that lasted for decades in the Middle East. What?
But it's an election year in the United States. The public is weary of decades of Middle Eastern wars, and a fight with Iran could send oil prices sky high, something that could pose a significant threat to President Joe Biden's re-election. But failing to act could also signal weakness and gut the administration both electorally and America's image abroad.
We will respond decisively to any aggression, and we will hold responsible the people who attacked our troops. We'll do so at a time and a place of our choosing.
Respond forcefully to deter Iran, but not so forcefully that it mires America in another Middle East war, a message the United States has sent to its adversaries directly.
We are not looking for a war with Iran. We are not seeking a conflict with the regime in a military way. And as I said in the opening, we're not looking to escalate here.
But is that a message that also signals weakness and tells Iran the U.S. isn't willing to fight at all, meaning other options must be on the table?
The U.S. is not willing to fight at all. It's not. You're never going to get the popularity. In order to get America to go to war, the population needs to be furious at whatever the enemy is. 9/11. George Bush's approval rating was higher than FDR's after Pearl Harbor. The situations like that is what you do, what you need to go to war. We haven't had that situation. This situation's horrible, and I'm not saying that you weigh human life, but to your normal American person, they don't want to send our young people to die for no reason, which is what happened in Iraq. So nobody wants that. It's the whole view of the situation is thwarted. This is a totally different situation. The United States has every right to attack Iran. They don't have to, drop troops on the ground. We could win this battle through freaking drones from a ship, and none of our people get hurt. What's Iran going to do about it? Nothing.
One option is to strike, but without claiming responsibility, leaving deniability on the table and giving Iran an out to a full confrontation with the U.S. And another, to strike Iran's proxies rather than Iran itself, making it hard for Iran to justify an escalation.
Full points to the administration for wanting to avoid a regional war.
But we're doing classic mirror imaging here where we think our adversaries think like we do. They do not. When they hear proportionality, reasonable, moderate, we don't want a regional war, that sounds so good in Davos. But our adversaries hear that as weakness and a green light for aggression.
Yeah, exactly. You got to understand that these extremist Islamists, which is Iran, right? Iran's government, they're extremist Islamists. They fund jihad through Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthi rebels, you name it. They fund it a lot of times with U.S. taxpayer money. So your taxpayer money is going to fight Israel, and your taxpayer money to Israel is going to fight the Houthi rebels and stuff that are getting all this supplemental income from us. Our tax money is causing this conflict. It's our tax money versus our tax money. It's disgraceful. But these people do not understand reason. They do not understand logic. They are devout Islamists who believe in the highest level of Islam, which is jihad, and that Islam should be the only religion in the world. And if you're not Islamic, you should die, that you're an infidel. That's what they believe. And you can't talk to people like that. They only understand overwhelming force. That's how you get them to back down. But Joe Biden's not doing that. We're firing a couple of missiles at a couple of empty tents and warehouses and a couple of camels in the desert to say, oh, yeah, we're retaliating. But you're really not. I mean, retaliating would be bombing the hell out of Iran and killing their entire leadership. That would be like, oh God. Or assassinating one of the leaders. Killing him. I mean, we do have the CIA. And Israel has the Mossad, and they've assassinated people before. Maybe kill the guy who's funding the terrorist organizations and send a message. We're not going to tolerate this.
U.S. Republican senators are now urging direct strikes against Iran, a message the regime will not be able to ignore. But given the potential costs, is that even on the table?
Nonsense. Let's watch this video. The parents of one of the fallen soldiers, Specialist Kennedy Sanders, went on Fox News and they talked about their daughter. Let's watch this. Before we continue, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button.
We're all sorry for your loss. Can you tell us what these last few hours have been like for you, Oneida?
Well, honestly, I think I'm still in a state of shock and disbelief. Reality probably won't set in until we actually travel to go receive her remains. That's the time that I'm really not looking forward to. I'm dreading it, actually. But right now, I'm still just in a state of disbelief.
Yeah.
That's so understandable. And Sean, we see you holding a picture of your baby girl. And now we know her, we know her face. We know that she loved this country and wanted to serve our country. She's one of the best among us. So tell us more about her. Tell us about your daughter.
She was the life of the party, many would say. She enjoyed life. She was very competitive. She was goal-oriented, and she loved the service. She loved serving our country. And, you know, I just miss her right now. This morning has been tough for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very sad. A situation that we never should have allowed to happen in the United States. Donald Trump has come out and said that this would have never happened if he were president. We don't know that for sure, and he's also running for president. So we don't really know. But thank you for tuning in. This is the Ryan Samuel Show. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We are live every Monday night on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Rumble at 8 p.m. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible, Apple Music. Even if you have an Alexa in your house, just say, hey, Alexa, play the Ryan Samuel Show, and you can find us anywhere. Thank you very much for tuning in. God bless America, and God bless our troops.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ryan Samuels Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.